Hey, tell me about, I don't mean but you've had some dealings with Helen Horton. I saw your tweet today. Tell me a bit about Helen Horton, what you know of her, and I don't know if you've had any interactions. I know that she has highlighted your book a few times in interviews that she's done. Tell me about her. We got some to play.
Yeah, I haven't met her or spoken with her. I've been at least one public meeting where she was the MC, and that was back in 2019 when she was a candidate for the new Conservative Party in the Christchurch East election. Not in 2019. The meeting was 2019, but that would have been the 2020 election. In the intervening time, she's ended up becoming the leader of the new Conservative Party, which she remains at the moment, at least until they have their next AGM, and who knows what will happen after that. But she's at the first time I encountered her, I think she was still in the teaching profession. She's left that profession to study law. She's, as far as I know, about halfway through her law degree, and the reason she's studying law is that she sees it as vitally important to take any teaching about sort of LGBTQ plus topics out of the curriculum, and she'd pushed for that as a teacher with like a petition. She's made submissions to select committees, and now sort of sees the need to study law and sort of push for that in other ways. And she's as I guess we'll see in the clip, she's had a bit of a win because as part of the coalition agreement between National and New Zealand First, the relationship and sexuality education guidelines are going to be removed from the curriculum, which is one of the things that she's been pushing for. Although, as she says, she's going to continue pushing further and make sure groups like Inside Out, which is a charity that provides educational resources around LGBTQ topics to schools, should be making sure that they have no say over the education of other people's children. So don't think we've heard the last of it yet.
It's always interesting when they don't want so-called these groups to have education over their children, but if it was their group, if it was the group about quote-unquote purity and waiting till they'd love to have those words spoken over their kids. But here's a clip from this radio show on an online radio forum today. I don't know if it was today, actually, the last few days. Let's just have a listen to what she said, because there's one part about it to me which is quite I don't know if dark is the right word, but the amount of joy that she has with the idea that relationship and sexuality education is going to be gone from our schools is telling of her background.
You have to be happy with some of the things that have got past the line, particularly around guidelines with REC in schools. I know I have to admit my little heart went pitter-patter on that. How about you?
Marie, it's great to be back on. And yes, I'm buzzing. I'm still buzzing over the policy announcements, many of them actually, things that, New Conservative have been advocating for. But yes, especially the REC, because I have been on the show so often talking about that. You can't get the grin off my face. Absolutely. And, when I heard it, I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is Christmas present. The moment of joy then turned to, I actually shed some tears because it's been a long battle. 5 years, I walked out of school to fight this. And gosh, don't want to get emotional now, but it's huge.
You weren't the only one that shed a wee tear, I have to say, on Friday, Helen. So
it just seems so I don't know, dancing on the grave of another policy that you happen to not agree with. But I mean, people have mentioned in the chat the word Christo-fascist. Was Helen Horton featured in your book, or was it just the New Conservatives that were featured in your book?
She featured in the book, not terribly prominently, but I wrote about that meeting that I attended in 2019 that she was the MC of. At that meeting, Elliot Eola, who was then the deputy leader, held up a copy of a book about and it was about transgender teenagers speaking about their lives and their experiences. Sorry, the title of it is escaping me right now. But she piped up to say that it only took her 1 minute to find it in the public library, because Eola was saying, your rates have paid for this. This is from the local library. And, they didn't want these kind of books to be either in schools or in public libraries where young people could find them and read them. So I'd mentioned her in the chapter on the New Conservatives, and again in the chapter on Talar, which was the television show hosted by Eola and two other former New Conservative candidates. And Helen Houghton would often appear as a guest on that show, and so I'd written about one episode that she was on, talking about these gender related issues and things there.
It just seems, I mean, like, I understand how some people kind of don't get the whole conversation around gender and the new way of doing things, but just the delight at squashing these ideas and the delight at, having these kids have less information at schools just seems completely contrary to, all the freedoms and liberties that these people on the right so much talk about.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think the wider context here is it's not just that she has, some concern about this material being inappropriate for children or teenagers. And if you look at the guidelines, they're written to be age appropriate. And perhaps there's a legitimate debate to have around what is and what isn't age appropriate in terms of this kind of education. But Houghton's also been active in a lot of sort of anti-transgender activity. She was there in the gazebo with Posey Parker when she came to this country, and spoke at the rally outside the courthouse when Eliana, the woman who threw the tomato juice over Posey Parker, was appearing in court. I think she didn't actually appear in person in the end, but this protest still went ahead, and so Houghton was there along with others from Voices for Freedom and Speak Up for Women, and I'm not sure if Voices for Freedom was there. I'm confusing them with Speak Up for Women, but others from Speak Up for Women and the Women's Rights Party that ran in the election. So I don't think she's just concerned about inappropriate material being provided to children. I think really she would rather that transgender people disappeared from public life, and not teaching students in schools about the fact that not everybody grows up to identify with the gender they were assigned at birth, and some people don't feel that they fit into a gender binary. It's erasing that knowledge because you want to erase these people, transgender people and non-binary people. You want us to, as a society, sort of not acknowledge their existence and give the impression that the existence is wrong or bad by making it a taboo topic that it's inappropriate to talk to children about.
It just screams of the 1950s when the pregnant teenager got sent away. Don't want to see her. No, get it. Send it to the country for that 9 months, and then she comes back, and the parents happen to adopt a baby that was available from somewhere. It's like a go away, because that's the big thing, isn't it? If it's a part of society, if it's in society, what does going, well, great, they're never going to talk about it in school, actually achieve other than more confusion, more hurt, and probably more issues for the people who are in that group themselves?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you listen to people who have grown up and realized that they are, perhaps don't fit into the gender binary or fit with the gender they were assigned at birth. And for people who have grown up in a situation where they didn't learn about the existence of these people outside that binary or people being transgender, that doesn't stop them becoming that way, because that's who they are. Great book I read this year was One of Them by Chanel Lal, and they talk about that growing up in Fiji and not having many examples of transgender people or non-binary people other than one transgender woman who was a bit of an outcast in the village because of who she was, and going to sort of religious schooling and things, and not learning about the existence of these people and the history of people outside the gender binary, and both in Polynesian society and Indian society, which are their background, and yet still being transgender, being non-binary, because that's who they are. So you're not actually stopping people from becoming transgender or non-binary by not teaching them about the existence of these people. If anything, you're just pushing them to seek out that information elsewhere, which could end up being somewhere less safe. It could end up that rather than learning about this from trusted adults in their life, they learn about it from random stranger adults on the internet. So having this in schools, I think is the safer option for people. And I think it could be, in a number of ways, could end up being quite harmful to young LGBT children, teenagers, to remove these guidelines from the curriculum.